time for the final part of the Battle of the Birds. So, we're ready for the wedding between the son of the king of Tethertown and the youngest daughter of the giant. So it was the night before the wedding, and the king's son met with the youngest daughter, and she said, "Now be careful. Tomorrow my father, the giant, he will try and trick you. You will have noticed that I look very similar to my sisters." "Yes, yes," he said, "but I would know you anywhere." "Well, tomorrow my father will make sure we're all dressed the same, that our faces look very similar, that our hair is done in a similar way. It will be almost impossible for you to tell us apart. And he will ask you to choose one. And once you've made that choice, that is the one you must marry." And he said, "Well, how will I know that it's you?" And she said, "Well, actually, there is a way." And she held up her hand with the missing finger. "I will just show my hand. You will see that the finger is missing, and you'll be able to choose me." "Good idea," he said. So the next day, the wedding was there. People were invited from all around. They came. There was music, there was laughter, there was dancing. And in giant weddings, there's always a big party first. And at the end, the wedding part comes at the end of the party, okay? In lots of places, there's a wedding first and then a party. But in giant weddings, the party comes first, then the wedding. So everyone had this massive party. And then at the end, the three daughters were brought out in front of the king's son. And the giant said, "Choose your bride." And the king's son, of course, he saw the missing finger and he went straight to his love. And the giant couldn't conceal his anger. He was really annoyed by this. He knew he'd been tricked somehow, but he couldn't figure it out. And so he announced that the wedding, then that's the wedding's over once the bride's been chosen. The wedding's over. Everyone should go to sleep. It's been a long day. And everybody went off to their rooms. And the king's son was ready to fall asleep because it had been a long day. And his new wife, the giant's daughter, said, "We mustn't sleep. My father is so angry. If you close your eyes and fall asleep, he will come here and do something terrible to you. I hate to think what. You mustn't sleep. We must flee this place. Get out of here immediately." Okay, let's do that, he said. So they gathered up their belongings and they went out into the courtyard and they got a horse out of the stable and they were about to ride off. And the daughter said, wait, there's one thing I need to do first. And she went into the house and she took an apple and she cut it into 9 pieces. She crept into the giant's room and she placed 2 pieces, like one either side of his ears, 2 pieces down at the bottom of the bed, 2 pieces by the bedroom door, another 2 pieces of apple by the main front door of the house, and 1 piece out in the courtyard. And she said, "Okay, let's go." And they rode off. And they made a little bit of a noise riding off. And the giant sort of half woke up and he said, "Daughter, are you still there?" And the apples beside him, they spoke in her voice. Yes, I'm in my room." And then after a few minutes, he woke up again. He was tossing and turning. "Daughter, are you still in your room?" And the 2 apples down by his feet. Yes, still in the room." Okay. Meanwhile, the daughter and the king's son were riding further off. "Daughter, are you still there?" And the apples by the bedroom door. Yes, we're still here. And you can guess what's going to happen. He shouts again, "Daughter, are you in your room?" And the apple by the front door. Yes, I'm in my room. And the giant started to think, sounds like you're getting further away. "Are you really still here, daughter?" And the apple that was outside in the courtyard. Yeah, still here. And the giant jumped up. "I've been tricked. She's no longer here." And he ran out into the courtyard. Empty. He ran to her room. Empty. She was gone. And he started to run after them. The king's son and the daughter rode and into the darkness. And after a while, she said, she was hanging on behind the king's son and the horse, and she said, "I feel my father's breath on my back." That means she could feel he was approaching behind them. "Reach into the ear of the horse and take out what is in there." And they were riding along, and the young boy thought, okay, strange, but I'll do it. Put his hand in the ear, pulled out. It was a branch full of thorns, very sharp, spiky thorns and berries. and he gave it to her. She threw it over her shoulder. Up grew an enormous hedge of thorns, 20 miles across, 10 miles high, and 100 miles deep. So thick that even a tiny creature could make its way through. Sharp thorns everywhere. The giant ran into the thorns. The thorns were tearing at him, and he stopped. And he thought, if I had my axe here, I'd be able to chop my way through these thorns, no problem. And so he backed out of the thorns. They were all pulling on his pullover. He went back to the house. He got his axe, and back he came, and he chopped his way through the thorns without any problem, actually, because he was a giant, chopping and chopping. Meanwhile, the king's son and the daughter were riding on and on. After a while, she said, I feel his breath on my back again. Reach into the ear. He reached into the ear of the horse. Out he took a small grey rock. He handed it to her. She threw it over her shoulder. Up sprouted enormous boulders and rocks and mountains and hills and a huge wasteland of rocks, hundreds of miles across and 20 miles thick, 2 miles high. The giant came and ran into them, and he was trying to get his way through the rocks. He found it almost impossible. If only I had my hammer, I could smash my way through. I'm going to have to go back. And he went back, and he went through the place that he'd cut in the bushes, and he went all the way back, and he got his huge hammer, and he came back, and he hammered his way through the rocks, crushing the rocks, till he made his way through. Meanwhile, his daughter and the king's son riding, and once again she said, I feel his breath on my back. Reach into the ear. And he reached into the ear of the horse once again. And this time he brought out a small leather bag that had some water inside it. And she took it and threw it over her shoulder. Out grew a huge loch. That's like a lake of water. Wide as wide can be. Deep as deep can be. And the giant ran at the water. And when he ran at it, he ran and ran and ran, and he went down and down and down. And he didn't come up the other side. And the daughter felt it. And she said, we are safe now. My father has gone under the water. He did not come up again. We are safe from him. Ride on to your parents' castle. And that's what he did. He rode and rode and rode. And when he got to the castle, he said, my parents may be surprised that I have fallen for the daughter of a giant. Stay here by this well, sometimes called the well at the world's end. Stay here, and I shall come back for you. I need to go down and tell them that I'm safe and make my acquaintance with them again, because I haven't seen them since I was 7 years old, some 10 years ago. And she said, yes, but know this, there is a magic over us. When you go home, if a single person should kiss you, you will forget that I exist. Let no one kiss you. I'll make sure it doesn't happen, he said. And down he went. And she climbed up into a tree that was beside the well at the world's end, and sat in the branches and waited. Down he went. His mother and father were delighted to see him. Oh, come here, my boy, let us kiss you. No, you mustn't kiss me, he said. Even though I want to, and even though you want to, you can't. And he explained the whole thing. Up came the servants. Oh, we must kiss. No, don't kiss us. Oh. And then up jumped his favourite dog from when he was a child. The dog jumped up and gave him a big lick, which counts as a dog kiss. And at that very moment, all memory of the giant's daughter fizzled out of his brain. He'd forgotten her. She was sitting up in the tree. He didn't come back. While she was sitting there in that tree, a young girl came to fetch some water from the well. It was getting dark. She was a little bit frightened. She went to get water from the well, and she saw the shadow of the giant's daughter up in the tree. Oh, a monster! And she ran home and she told her whole family there was a monster by the well at the world's end. Her mother came, same thing. She saw the shadow. Oh, there's a monster up there. Ran all the way back. Finally, the father went out. He also thought it was a monster. He was ready to run. And the daughter said, don't run. I'm no monster. I'm just lost, and I'm up in this tree, and I need help. And the old man said, okay, come home with us. We'll look after you. And it turned out that he was a shoemaker. He made leather shoes, which he sold all around the kingdom, even into the palace. And she learned the ways of shoemaking, and she lived with them for quite a long time. And then one day the shoemaker said to her, we must make a very special pair of shoes, because tomorrow the son of the king of Tethertown, he's getting married, and we're making the shoes for him. And at this her heart sank, because she hoped that one day he would come back for her. And now he found out that he's getting ready to marry somebody else. And the shoes were made. And the next day she said to her father, can I come with you up to the castle? I've never been there. Yes, you can come up with me. And they got to the castle, and in they went. And everybody at the castle fell in love with the daughter. She looked so lovely and unusual, and she had something special about her. And through she went, and she said, can I go up to the room of the king's son and present him with the shoes? Why, yes. And in she went, and she met the king's son. Your Majesty, these shoes are for you. Ah, yes, put them over there on this box by the window. He didn't even recognize her. He was looking at her, but he didn't click in any way that he remembered her. And he said to her, you know I'm getting married, but would you like to have a glass of wine with me to toast my marriage? And she said yes, and he poured wine into her glass. And she held it up between the two of them, and out of that glass came a flame. And he was amazed with the flame. And out of that flame flew two birds, and they were tiny, tiny Jenny Wrens. One was gold and one was silver. And they flew round and round and round, and he was looking at them and looking at them. And from the air in between them, 3 grains of corn fell onto the ground. And the silver Jenny Wren flew down and ate them. And the golden Jenny Wren said to the silver, yeah, you ate those corns instead of sharing them with me. After all I did for you, like the time that I cleaned out the cow stable. And the silver Jenny Wren came up and started to fly again. And at the mention of the cow stable, the king's son was, cow stable. That reminds me of something. 3 more grains fell down. The silver Jenny Wren flew down, and the golden one said, yeah, you're eating these all by yourself. I thought you would share them with me. Remember that time when I thatched the roof with all the feathers of a different colour for you? And it flew up again. Oh yeah, thatch the roof, thought the son. I remember something about that. And finally, of course, 3 grains fell. The silver Jenny Wren went down, and the golden Jenny Wren said, yeah, you eaten all that by yourself without sharing it. Remember that time I helped you with my very bones to get those eggs from the magpie nest. And it was that memory, the memory of the bones, that brought it all back to him. And he remembered her. And he remembered how in love with her he had been. But now he had a problem. He was actually getting married that day. He didn't know what to do. He went to his parents. He went to his advisors. He went to his magician. He went to everybody he could ask. But all they said to him was, you must follow your heart. And in the end, he knew there was only one choice that he could make. And he took the giant's daughter for his bride. And they were married on that very day. And as far as I know, they are living happily ever after. I hope you enjoyed the story of the Battle of the Birds.